Coming up, which is the world's best luxury saloon? Andrew Frankel tests contenders from Mercedes, BMW and Jaguar. The Mini. We assess the never-ending appeal of Britain's best-selling car. And we take a trip in a traditional Aston Martin, the Vantage, to see how the new DB7 is built.
For years, BMW, Jaguar and Mercedes have been the most desirable luxury cars in the world. But since the start of the 90s, the Mercedes S-Class has ruled the roost. Now both Jaguar and BMW have built cars specifically designed to take them back to the top of the tree. First under the spotlight is the title holder. What we're seeing here is the very essence of Mercedes-Benz, the three-pointed star on the bonnet. People pay big money just for that. In the rain and the fog, there are few places on Earth that feel more secure than inside this Mercedes S-Class. Its build quality makes you feel like you've been locked inside a bank vault. When it was launched in 1990, it combined refinement, reliability and sheer quality into a blend the world had never seen before. It mowed down all rivals in its path, scarcely pausing to draw breath on the way. However, it's not sold as well as Mercedes would have hoped, and few outside the company wonder why. For all its awesome talents, let's face it, there are farmyard animals that are better looking than this. Those who drive it adore it because it is the ultimate machine tool for getting from A to B. But what if you want your car to be more than merely ultimate transport? What if you want your car to say something positive about you? You buy a BMW. But should you? BMW 7 Series may look a whole lot better than the Mercedes, but it's still hardly the last word in effortless style. It looks like it was designed by a committee, concentrating on creating a safe, inoffensive shape rather than one with any true sense of adventure. The result is a car that is neither pretty or ugly, just bland. Nevertheless, there's more than enough gadgets in here to keep even the most avid techno freak happy for years. Here on the center console, we have handy drinks holders. Above, all the controls for the air conditioning. And this is a computer, which will even tell you if you're breaking the law. It also doubles as the controls for the compact disc player, which is in the boot, and the radio. We have further controls for the tape machine. But even this was not enough for BMW. Once they'd run out of switches here, they simply moved the rest onto the steering wheel. BMW's traditional strength, even over the Mercedes, is pure driving pleasure. It has made sure that the 7 Series handles in a more sporting fashion than is traditional in its class. In exchange for a slightly firmer, less comfortable ride, it goes round corners more quickly, rolls less, and is miles more fun to drive than the Mercedes. To maintain this lead, the 7 Series has been equipped with a V8 engine, where others among these cheaper flagships use just 6 cylinders. This ensures that when it comes to power, refinement, response and a sporting nature, the BMW is still the one to beat. So where does this leave Jaguar, the third fighter for the bulging wallets of the executive set? On many fronts, to be honest, nowhere. First, and most damning of all, there are family hatchbacks with more room inside than this XJ6. Its low roofline eats away at interior space, meaning there's barely enough room in the front, let alone the back. For considerably less money than either the BMW or a Mercedes, this Jaguar comes complete with a 4-litre engine. Its rivals use 3 litres or less. So this means that not only is this car convincingly the best looking of the trio, it's also easily the fastest. It's easy to be drawn by the Jaguar's exquisite craftsmanship. It is, after all, the only one with any claim to being a real looker. So which to choose? Not the BMW. It's a jack of all trades that is neither as charming as the Jaguar nor as effective as the Mercedes. The engine is fine, And the cabin has novelty value, but novelties wear off, and in the end, there's little to justify it being the most expensive of the three. Perhaps the Jaguar. It's a good car, but don't get carried away by its charms until you're sure you can live with its cramped interior. Which brings us back to the Mercedes, still the best luxury car in the world. When it comes to the first duty of any limo, transporting people in total luxury, it reigns supreme. If only it looked a little better.
In this ageless setting lives one of Britain's most respected and forward-thinking car engineers, Dr. Alex Moulton. Suspension systems he has designed have been under more than 10 million British cars, including the biggest seller of them all, the Mini. Dr. Moulton built two entirely different suspensions for the Mini. The more sophisticated of them, a fluid system connecting the front and rear wheels, also went under the Aston 1100, the Allegro, the Maxi and the Metro. Amazingly, this 30-year-old system is also used in Rover's brand new sports car, the MGF. But today, we wanted Dr. Moulton to take time out from building his famous Moulton bicycles to test a car for us, the luxurious LS400 Saloon, one of the world's most comfortable cars. Why exactly was it so good?
Suspension starts to act immediately the car becomes alive. And it affects everything, not only the behavior of the car in a directional sense, but also the suspension influences the noise coming through from the road.
Right, the key,
yeah.
Yes, the key point that seems not to be appreciated by everybody is that the suspension controls noise as well as movement.
Indeed. Now, I'm noticing, by the way, now that we're beginning to move, one of the motions is what is called the pitching motion. The pitching motion, which the camera will be able to pick up, is the movement of the horizon, or the view ahead, in relation to the car itself. And if that horizon is bobbing up and down because the car is pitching, that's disturbing.
It's correct to say, isn't it, broadly speaking, that a car with soft suspension will not change direction as quickly or as well as one which is well tied down, as they say.
It is. True? Absolutely, that's indeed true. And
presumably the problem for you as a suspension designer is to get the comfort and the agility.
That is the compromise that one is always trying to effect. Now we're going to now go down a bit of really Foss title road, which is quite difficult to negotiate. We'll run down there, and this may be interesting because I'll cry out when the time comes. There's a rather big, deep breathing which will take place when I cry out.
This is a test of the suspension's total control.
Total control, exactly.
I see.
And we're just beginning to move into these undulations.
The car tends to use all of its
travel, and we shall eventually get there. One felt it just going through a little bit. Now we're going to get some rather nasty ones here. There we're going right through. Still very controlled. There we are going again and again and again. You can feel it using up all its travel. It'd be lovely to see what the wheel is saying there, and then it'll be there. It'll be quite deep there. It's not bad, perfectly controllable, but certainly the suspension is being made to do the whole lot. There we are again.
Yeah. How do you find the car? I mean, how do you sum up your impression?
Look, I mean, it's a very, very fine car. Now, on the suspension, I don't regard it as particularly brilliant. In other words, the technical solutions are rather conventional, and therefore the results are rather conventional, if you're going to allow that.
The latest from Dr. Moulton is that BMW, the Germans who recently bought Rover, are reassessing a prototype he built over 20 years ago with a view to using its suspension in the next Mini due out at the turn of the century.
They may be trendy, they may also be lethal. 500,000 vehicles on British roads now sport bull bars, but they could be unwittingly endangering lives.
The
normal car is designed to spread the impact of a pedestrian across the front of the car. These bars concentrate the forces far too much, and particularly for children. It's estimated there could be an extra 35 deaths a year, and that is clearly unacceptable for what is really just a fashion accessory.
Hundreds more could be injured, though the manufacturers say if they didn't fit the bars, a backstreet industry could be more hazardous. A child hit by an ordinary car at 20 miles an hour has a 95% chance of survival. But the latest research shows that if a child the size of young Craig here was hit by this at just 12 miles an hour, he would certainly be killed. You can buy bull bars for as little as £20, all perfectly legal, of course, but police are concerned and are conducting a national survey into the use of the bars. But drivers with bull bars are not convinced.
It really depends on how people drive. Maybe that's more important than the idea of what's in the front of the car.
We should take some for the glass and the grille.
So you think it might even be safer?
Yeah, I'd say so.
MPs calling for bull bars to be banned say this is where they should be used, away from the road and away from children.
Coming up after the break, why the world loves the Mini, and we test Aston Martin's Vantage and DB7.
The Mini is undoubtedly a classic in the true sense of the word, as it was a giant step forward for automotive engineering. Designed by Sir Alex Issigonis as the ultimate in economical family motoring, it's been on sale around the world since 1959. Even now, the Mini is selling like hotcakes in Japan. And despite a host of imitators over the last 3 decades, no car quite handles like it. So not only does the Mini have most rivals, all rivals, beaten on agility, nippiness around town, even the engine's better than most modern units. But the amazing thing about this car, particularly in its original form like this, is the incredible space in a shell only 10 feet long. Apart from the enormous door bins at the front, there's bins at the back by the rear seat, there's space under the rear seat. There's this incredible dashboard, which possibly isn't even a dashboard. It's simple central instruments, great big speedo, classic Smith styles, and there's all the space around them, big enough for you to prop up your A to Z as you're whizzing through town. So not only did Issigonis manage to squeeze all that storage space into a 10-foot body, but I'm nearly 6 foot tall, and I'm sitting here in perfect comfort with 4 inches of headroom, bags of room for my knees, and bags of room in the footwell. But the Mini isn't just about getting 4 people into a 10-foot car. When Sir Alex Issigonis set out to build the new family car, he actually rewrote the rulebook. In a way, it's the engine and transmission that makes the Mini a success. Issigonis took the A-series from the Morris Minor and mounted it sideways across the front of the car, powering the front wheels. Most cars at the time were rear-wheel drive. He also put the gearbox under the engine, which meant the car could be narrower. And to make the nose even shorter, they put the radiator at the side. So the whole front of the car was a revolution for the time. But the revolution didn't stop with the engine and transmission. Issigonis put these tiny 10-inch tyres on his car and combined it with a new suspension system dreamt up by Alex Moulton, which used rubber cones instead of springs, which meant the whole system was very, very compact, perfect for the Mini. But this may be one of its more embarrassing features. The boot itself isn't enormous, but they thought of that too. The lid is intended to be used as a rest, and the number plate and rear light drops down to accommodate it. So even as you watch this, engineers from Rover and BMW are working on an all-new Mini. Personally, I hope they take a close look at this original Austin Mini. They could learn an awful lot from it.
It may look like a collection of chicken sheds, but car enthusiasts wouldn't have it any other way. This is where they make Aston Martin's famous V cars, the Virage, the Volante, and this one, fastest of them all, the Vantage. For me, this place, Newport Pagnell, about 50 miles north of London, has always meant just one thing. It's the home of Aston Martin. And for 80 years, for about 40 years on this site, the company has done one thing. It's produced extremely fast, extremely expensive, hand-built sports cars. But about a year ago, things changed. They started to make the DB7, which is a slightly less expensive, slightly easier to build car on a different site. But right here at Newport Pagnell, they still make their V cars the most exclusive, the fastest, and the most expensive Aston Martins of the lot. This is one of the last places on Earth where cars are truly shaped by hand. Every curve, every crease is beaten into the alloy skin by these craftsmen, many of whom have been at Aston Martin man and boy. Roger Stowers has been here longer than most of them.
We make more of our own car here than anybody else in the world, and that really is a plain statement of fact. We simply have to. When you do as few as we do, there are not many people who want to help you do so, because it's just, there's nothing in it for them. So you have to be self-reliant, and we're certainly that. We build these cars to absolutely individual orders, and if an owner wants to come and see his car being built, then we're delighted if we should want to do so. In everything we do, we are the equivalent of the French fashion houses, shirt makers, boot makers, in all their various callings. We do exactly that with a motor car.
Even the mighty engine is built by a solitary, skilled technician. I've been in loads of car factories, Roy, and I've never seen one where somebody has built the engine from start to finish. Is that a good way to work?
I think it is, yeah, because at the end of the day, you've got that sole responsibility. If anything goes, I mean, my name is on that engine. If there's anything wrong with it, then it's down to me.
Where does your name actually go?
It sits on the top of the fuel rails.
Must make you pretty proud.
Oh, yeah, very proud indeed.
Aston owners undoubtedly go to Savile Row for their suits, and they don't want anything less than tailored interiors for their cars. This trim department will finish a car any way an owner wants, but always in top quality Connolly leather. Well, that was Newport Pagnell, but how were things 50 miles away at the DB7 factory? I set off to find out, savouring the Vantage on the way. What we have here is a classic Newport Pagnell Aston Martin. It's a very big car. It's got a massive V8 under the bonnet, same as they've been putting there since 1970. 550 horsepower's worth, 2 superchargers, so it goes like the clappers, of course. The critics of this car would say it was too big and was a truck. At nearly 2 tons, it isn't very agile. What's mildly surprising to me, in view of all the panel bashing that we've seen at Newport Pagnell, is that this car comes out so well. It is very professionally finished. The trim is lovely, all leather, of course, but the panels are very good, the paint's very good, everything fits really quite precisely. All the classical Aston Martin interior features are here, of course. Loads of leather, nice walnut dashboard, enough dials without being too many. The greatest thing here, as far as I'm concerned, is the boost gauge, which is right in your eye line. And it says here, supercharged underneath. Just a little reminder. The best reminder, of course, is to give it a bit of a flick with your right foot, and then it goes. So we did go, all the way to Bloxham in the Cotswolds, to Wickham Mill, home of the DB7. This is what the Vantage specialises in, arrivals. That was amazing. What a monster this car is. But the thing that's most striking about it is that the whole car is subservient to the engine. Let me show you what's under the lid here. I think I can guarantee that you won't find an engine like this under the average bonnet. I mean, take a look at this thing. It looks like it belongs in a power station, doesn't it? These two finned objects on the top are the twin superchargers. Underneath, somewhere underneath all this trunking, is a 32 valve V8, 5.3 litres, plenty of power, in fact enough power to take this 3,800 weight structure and throw it down the road like a feather in the breeze. But that's enough horsepower talk. We were here to look at DB7s. I was shown around by Andy Watt, who's been with the DB7 since the beginning. So Andy, I've just been in Newport Pagnell and I looked at the beginning of the line there and there was a load of tubes and steel sheet. It's obviously not like that here.
No, we built DB7 in a different way. We've worked with a number of engineering partners in building the body, the axles, the engine and so on. In fact, the body comes into us fully painted.
Oh, I see.
Having been painted by Rolls-Royce.
Ah.
We then obviously take the car onto the track and hand assemble the car. So it still goes together by hand, but in a slightly different way.
So this is a hand-built engine?
Still a hand-built engine, manufactured by a team of engine builders at TWR. And then it comes into us fully tested, and we then just drop it in the car.
I was going to say, I don't see many robots around here.
No, we've got one overhead hoist that we use to drop the engine in, but I guess that's just because the guys can't lift it.
When I was in Newport Pagnell, they told me that it takes 4 months in the factory for a car to be built. What's the story here?
Well, excluding the time it takes for Rolls-Royce to paint the car and motor panels to build the body, you're looking at about a 2-week time from door to door.
Oh, really? Well, they do look very good, I must say.
So, would you fancy taking a drive?
Only a lot. Obviously, at half the price of a Vantage, the DB7 isn't as big or as powerful, but for my money, it is every bit as beautiful, and it goes rather well, too. The thing that makes me feel so pleased about this car is that it is a genuine Aston Martin. It's quite closely related to the cars that go back as far as the 50s. If you stand behind it, you can see lines that are reminiscent of the DB2, which was built in the 50s. The controls are much lighter than they are in the Vantage. It's an easier car to drive all round. Very good brake bite, crisp steering. It isn't a raucous sports car, this at all, and the power is not the explosive V8 kind of stuff. It's much more elastic. It has plenty of there, 335 horsepower, but it isn't a big kick in the back, Detroit style, not your hot rod at all, much more your European thoroughbred. And to go with the power, European stability, handling and brakes. And from what my spies say, there are more exotic DB7s on the way. Already they're at work on a convertible and a faster Vantage version too. The DB7 is going to be very important in Aston Martin's future.